The son of a wealthy business executive showed up late for work, again. He wasn't too worried about it. He enjoyed a cushy job and the security of knowing that his father owned the company. When he walked through the door, his older brother met him with a cold glare and a snarky comment. He settled in behind his desk, replied to the more important emails, and allowed his mind to wander. In 2 short years, he had grown tired of the corporate world. He felt that he needed some excitement in his life, a change of pace. He had been entertaining an idea and decided he would talk to his father later that evening. That night, he approached his father and told him that he would like to quit the company that his father had worked so many years to build and move upstate. He explained that he wanted to do life on his own, outside of his father's shadow. He pleaded with his dad to give him a substantial sum of money so he could move and start his own business. His father was resistant, but the son pushed, exclaiming, "Half of what you own will be mine one day. Why not give it to me now so I can actually enjoy it?" His father was reluctant, but later that week he opened a bank account and inserted a substantial amount of money for his youngest son. Excited, the young man wasted no time. He moved about 200 miles north and found a penthouse that overlooked the city. Knowing that he had plenty of cash in reserve, he decided to relax a little while before finding a job and working towards starting his own business. Eager to make friends, he threw lavish parties. His house was constantly filled with people he did not know. As long as the money was there, he had plenty of friends. Happy to be living his own life, he used much of his money on high-class prostitutes, if there is such a thing, and to become well acquainted with substances. This lifestyle continued for longer than he realized, until his entire nest egg was gone. He quickly realized that when the stream of money was gone, so were the new set of friends he had made. He didn't miss his fair-weather friends near as much as he did the substances that his body had become dependent on. Not only was he unable to afford the chemicals that his body craved, but he couldn't pay the rent or any other bills. His yuppie lifestyle was gone. He had acquired several different jobs, but the environment was not as forgiving as his father's company. Due to his substance abuse and his less than desirable work performance, he could not hold down a job. He found himself on the street, barely able to feed himself. One night, he was on the verge of taking his own life when he realized that his dad might be willing to give him an opportunity to clean the company's offices at night. He phoned his father and left a voicemail. He explained that he would be returning by bus the next day at 5 p.m. and let his father know the state of his life was in. He wanted his father to know he was coming home, but would understand if his father had no place for him. As he left the message, he stated, "If you aren't at the bus stop, I will know not to come home." As he was arriving closer to his hometown, the knot in his stomach grew intense. He felt that he was going to be sick. He laid his head back and dozed off. The bus lazily rolled into town and came to a stop. The young man awoke to the sound of the brakes and the driver announcing the stop. When he peered out the window, he was overwhelmed by the amount of people waiting at the stop. Who were all these people? He started to recognize faces. He knew most of them. They were friends of his family's and him. There was a banner that said, "Welcome home." As he panned the crowd, his eyes locked onto his father's. Hot tears burned down his face. He was overwhelmed with emotion. As he exited the bus, he was ready to give his father the speech he had rehearsed the whole ride home. "Dad, I'm so sorry." His father quickly interrupted. "I know. I'm glad you are back. Let's go home." They returned home and celebrated well into the night. The son had returned home. Everyone was glad to see him. Everybody except for his older brother. His older brother hated him for coming back. He was angry at his father for giving him a second chance. He had been loyal to his dad since childhood. He worked hard day after day. He never gave his dad any problems. Where was his reward for being the good son? Why should his brother's negligence and haphazard lifestyle be celebrated? So during the celebration, he stayed home and stewed in his own bitterness. We are all well familiar with this story. It has been told and retold hundreds of times. We know it as the prodigal son or the lost son. When the story is told, majority of emphasis is placed on the brother that left, squandered his life, and returned home. The focus should be here, because it is a gripping story of grace and redemption. Yet there is much to be learned from the other brother. Instead of celebrating with joy over the fact that his brother was home, he chose to focus on himself. Instead of being overjoyed that a life was changed, he chose to feel sorry for himself. Instead of realizing the blessings he had experienced in life due to his choices, he chose to begrudge his brother the benefit of a second chance. When we read this story, we feel inspired by the father's grace and look at the other brother with disdain for his poor attitude. But how often are we the other brother? How often are we cynical of people that want to change? Do we extend to others the benefit of a second chance? Sometimes as believers, we focus on how long we have been serving and look down our noses at those who are ready to come to Christ or return to Christ. I once heard someone say, "We don't want certain kind of people in our church." Really? Because I thought church was a safe haven for anyone willing to walk through the doors. It's a place for the faithful and prodigal. If we are honest, though, we have all been prodigal. Let's make sure we are loving as Jesus loved. Let's make sure we share in the excitement when prodigals return. Let's make sure we don't miss out on the joy when lives are changed because we are too focused on how faithful we have been. Church is a hospital for sinners, not a hotel for saints.